Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome if you are new and here for the first time. My name is Tari here at I Will Define Myself, and welcome to episode 4 in the Shadow Work series, everyone. I'm super excited to talk about this one. We are going to be talking about the masks that we wear. Okay, and also kind of diving a little bit into the self beneath the mask and who we are authentically. So, again, I'm very excited to dive into this because full transparency and vulnerability, I'm sure all of us have worn a mask, and some of us are wearing a mask, as we speak every day. So, let's go ahead and try to unpack that. Okay, it's an important aspect of shadow work. So, just to provide a quick recap, the first episode centered on just kind of laying a foundation for what shadow work is. Episode 2, we talked about creating safety because safety is an important aspect of feeling like you have the space to do this shadow work. Episode number 3, we talked about emotional triggers as spiritual messengers and being able to identify our triggers, what they mean underneath the surface, and all of those things. Okay, full disclaimer first and foremost, I'm going to apologize if I'm going to try not to move too much. I purchased a new mic and it literally picks up everything. So until I find my rhythm with it, you guys might hear some things. Okay, so when we talk about the mask that we wear, I want you to think about the questions. What roles do I play to feel accepted? There are a number of reasons why people wear masks. I believe probably at the root more than often, masks keep us safe. Masks also create some form of acceptance for us. Mask could also be used as survival strategies, if I'm just being very candid. And it's important for us to remember and to ask ourselves, who are we beneath the mask? Who are we beneath this performance that some of us have the ability to turn on and turn off, literally like a light switch. And then others of us have kind of lost our identity behind the mask and the pretending, so much to the point where we really don't know who we are beneath the surface. And it's kind of become our new reality. Being authentic, being your authentic self, I'm going to say this, it takes bravery. It takes courage because not everyone may be in alignment with your soul's authenticity. And that's okay because you don't want to be everyone's cup of tea, right? You don't need to attract everyone's energy left and right. You don't need your soul, your spirit does not need that, because the reality is that everyone is not for you. Everything is not for you. Everything is not meant for you. And it's only in living in a space of authenticity that you truly learn to have that discernment when it comes to what your spirit is rejecting, but not only your spirit, but your body as a whole. You physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Those signs are all around you. Your body will give you those signs, and it's literally up to you to pay attention to those. Okay, so let's dive into a little bit. I have a few talking points as it relates to the masks that we wear, why we may wear them, and let's talk about how we can potentially move forward, right? But also extend grace to ourselves when we are wearing some of these masks, right? But how do you balance being your authentic self or moving in a space of authenticity where you're being true to yourself without being able to be your full self in a space? And I'm going to share some examples myself personally, and maybe this can help remind people or just provide a bit more clarity when it comes to what I am referring to, if it does not make any sense. So, the first point when it comes to the mask we wear, I will say that masks are typically formed out of survival strategies. Okay. People experience it all the time. Maybe you are working in an environment where it is completely culturally different from you. It is no one in your work environment looks like you. Okay. No one in this environment really shares your lived experiences, which shape also not only your perspectives, but how you move throughout the world, right? And in environments like that, where you don't see yourself, literally and figuratively, what do you do? Out of survival mode, typically, you blend in. You blend in, you acclimate, right? I know that, for example, I have been in a work environment where I felt like I could be my full, complete self. There is a part of me that is very traditional in a lot of ways, but then there's a part of me that is very free flowing and expressive. And a lot of the times I do that with my hair because I like to switch it up, even with different colors. But I have worked in a work environment where I've literally been told, oh, well, this is cute, but you can't like wear this in the office. You can't, you can't wear that color to work. And then at that point, you've been giving this boundary, right? This line that you don't cross. You can't, even though it's a form of expression for you. And that may be, in like on like a lighter note, but still, we're all wearing masks in different capacities. Okay, whether you are code switching. Okay, that's something that I learned from my partner, where you are in certain environments and you literally switch. And next thing you know, it's almost as if like you have this different persona so that you can blend in. But the reality is that for a lot of people, that is out of survival. That is out of job security. That is out of safety. Not only for you, but for your families. That is for protection. Okay. And for some people, it is just for acceptance. It's so that you are not automatically ostracized for being different or for not fitting into the bubble that people try to put you in. And it does become a very delicate balance when it comes to not losing yourself in that, but also to knowing, having discernment when it comes to certain situations that you may be placed in. Is this the mask talking or is this me talking? There are parts of me, and I'm going to specifically talk about work, but this can even be in family environments. This can be in social environments where people will wear these masks. And again, where it stems from is typically rooted in something far deeper. I'm not saying that one outweighs the other, but I do know that for a lot of people, survival is part of it. Acceptance could be another part of it. The fear of being alone or being outcasted, which is typically comes from a result of something that you have experienced in the past, right? Which is why we are breaking down these different aspects and parts of shadow work, because they're all tied somehow to a previous experience that created a feeling and emotion that we have yet to unpack and deal with, and create the space to do that so that we can develop healthier coping strategies and mechanisms to be able to acknowledge, accept, love, and move forward, right? But with that being stated, at what point do we turn it off? At what point do we remove the mask and reveal and live authentically who we are as people? If I'm just being very honest now, I am currently in a working environment where I don't feel like I could come in with pink or purple hair, right? Even though I do see some colleagues that do, and this is no, shade to them in any way, but the reality is that I'm a Black woman, and I don't feel like I get the same grace as some of my other colleagues. And that is my reality. And that's okay. Because, I still switch it up, but I may not experiment too far outside of the lines with color, right? And that is something that only you can decide how far you are willing to go with these masks in different environments and in different situations where you also still don't feel like you've lost yourself. But when it comes to how I move as a person authentically, with compassion, with empathy, with purpose, with intention, giving grace when I communicate with people, hell, even crying at times because tears are my go-to emotion, I bring myself to the workplace. I've been in an environment or had a supervisor where someone's told me, oh, see, now they're going to run all over you because you've shown this aspect of vulnerability, right? And maybe in some situations or scenarios that's true. But I had to find my own way that was true to myself when it came to managing and working with people. And I have found that it is okay to care. As someone who naturally does it, it is okay to care. However, that is where boundaries come in place, right? And still being able to hold people accountable. So these roles, these masks that we wear and the roles that we play, they have a purpose and they're different for all of us. But it's important for us to recognize and acknowledge and try to unpack and understand the why behind in any given scenario we are wearing a mask. Why are you acclimating? Why are you leaning into this when you know it's really not you? Unless you've been wearing it so long that you don't know that it's not who you truly are authentically. I will say this. The next point is that letting go of masks is a very gradual process. Okay. Personally, I am currently working on being able to take off every single mask and be in a space and place where every day I am just really able to move freely, being who I am. And honestly, for the most part, I would say that I am like 95% there. Because even when you take off your mask and you become your authentic self or you move in that way, there's also a level of discernment that you have to have when it comes with people that you are interacting with, i.e., the mask being born out of survival, right? So even though I'm a very spiritual person, there are things that I practice, that I believe in, and all of these things. I'm just not out here around the sharing it with everybody, right? Because there's a level of protection that you have to have when it comes to those things, and discernment when it comes to who you are interacting with, and presenting your full self in every single way. Because not everyone is for you, right? And I get it. So it's like, well, Tari, how do you balance the two? And I think that definitely comes from knowing yourself and being in tune with your surroundings. Paying attention and being intentional are definitely key aspects of balancing, because I can't tell you that wearing a mask ever goes away. I can't say that it does. I've had a couple of Freudian slips myself where that subconscious just comes out. It's like, no, Tari, we're not playing any games today. This is what needs to be said. And I am learning that in a way that's like your spirit, that's like your authentic self telling you, hey, like, I need you to acknowledge me right now. I need you to create space for me. I need you to be authentic. I need you to take off this mask. And that's okay. It does happen gradually, and sometimes it will be one of those things where you are switching. But the important part is to know when you are switching. Know when your mask is on and know when your mask is off. And don't live in a space where your mask is constantly on, because you're never honoring who you are yourself. And if you are like Tari, honestly, I've been doing this for so long, I don't even know who I am anymore at this point. That's also okay. Because you acknowledge that this is where you are. But then what do you do next? What steps do you take next to unpack who you are? Or maybe it's one of those things of who you want to be. And what does that look like for you? What steps do you take to become this brave, courageous person? This person who, maybe wants to change the world with herbalism, right? What does it look like? And you start small, right? We're not here again to fix ourselves. We're not here to say, oh, I failed, I'm not enough. And also too, you get to set the pace with all of this. But the important part is just continuing to move forward step by step. Some days may be a lot easier and you may feel like, okay, I can do more work. I can put more energy with this and go forth and be great. Fly, little birdie, fly. Trust your wings. But then there will be days where you're like, not today. I'm stuck. This is all I've got in me. And you're already doing so much. It already is so much that you are acknowledging where your boundaries are. The capacity that you do or don't have is an important part of shadow work. So even when you feel like you're not doing as much as you could, or, oh, well, I did more yesterday or last week, right? You're still living and operating in this space of unpacking everything, which is a key part of shadow work and being intentional, because you want to be intentional with the process. With that being stated, as we have talked about in episode 2, creating a safe space, authenticity grows within safety. I.e., why a lot of masks are created from survival strategies. Maybe you don't feel safe in a particular environment to be your full self. But I will say that if you don't feel safe anywhere else in the outside world, you should feel safe in your home. Even if you share a space with multiple people, I encourage you to create a safe space for yourself where you can just be. Be your full, complete self. Okay? So, for example, when I am at work, I'm constantly on. I'm constantly talking to people. I'm constantly problem solving. I'm constantly being there for others. And it really takes a lot of energy. I come in and I ask you, how's your day going? And sometimes the responses aren't exactly what I pictured or even sometimes prepared for, but I do believe in giving people space. When you ask that question, there could be a lot that comes with it. And there are some days where I don't have it in me and I will just express that, like, hey, I need some time, not first thing in the morning. And that's okay. But then the reality is that it takes a lot of energy for me to talk to people. And I'm not going to say that I don't like it, but I do reach like a capacity very, very quickly. And literally when I come home, because like my space is like my sanctuary and my altar space is even more than that, I am just like shut down. Like I'm like, this is the time I have for myself. Sometimes I don't feel like talking, and learning myself and learning how to articulate that, it may not look the same for everybody, because some people can go and they don't have a problem talking, but talking is energy. Talking is energy. And sometimes I just don't have the energy. But even then, If I know that someone truly needs me to show up for them in that capacity and I have the space, then I will do it. But there have been moments where I don't have the space and I completely articulate, "Hey, I don't have the capacity for this today, but maybe tomorrow like I'll check back in and we can try to unpack things." So it's important to remember that safety is a huge part of feeling like you can be and bring your full authentic self to every area and aspect of your life. And again, the reality is that maybe you can't right now. Maybe you're unable to for whatever reason, and that's okay. Okay? This is a part of your journey. And really, I just want us to sit with when and where we wear our mask and why. And if we are wearing our mask all the time, have our mask become who we are as people, and at the root, you don't really know who you are. And then if that's the case, how do we move forward? Okay? The next point I'm going to make or stress is that when you are wearing your mask, I want you to remember that you are not, I repeat, you are not your coping patterns. Okay? A lot of the time when we are coping with things, it's coming from a very unhealthy space and not necessarily from a space of feeling whole or feeling like we're not lacking. I know for me that one of the ways that I will cope when I'm stressed, and I say cope because it doesn't come from a healthy space at all, but I eat. And I eat sweets, and because I love a good baked good, and that could look different for many people, right? But at the end of the day, I am not my coping patterns. It's important to remember that. You are not, that's not who you are. It may be what you are experiencing in that moment, but you are not those patterns by themselves. Okay, and my last point is going to be rest. Rest is a very important part because if you just really think about it, people wear masks in a number of ways, and that is a lot of energy. It's a lot of energy. And some of us really don't have the option throughout the day to do anything different. Or maybe we do, but the consequences or the ramifications of those actions could be detrimental in other ways. And so it's like, no, this is the lesser of the two evils. And if I just need to acclimate in this moment, then I'll just acclimate in this moment. But resting from the roles or the roles that you play, the mask that you wear, only supports your healing. So again, this is why safety is so important. It's important for you to be able to know when you're wearing a mask, but it's even more important to know when to take it off. And again, not everybody has the luxury of bringing their full authentic selves to every space, every time. Okay? As a Black woman, I get it. So then what do we do to support ourselves, to heal and to grow, to take off that mask, inhale and exhale, and be you and do you? It's interesting because I want you to think about during this time, and I'll have these guided questions in the description box, of course. But how do these roles that you play, these masks that you wear, support you, and how do they limit you? When did you learn that playing these roles or wearing these masks was necessary? Okay? In any given situation or scenario, and you can use one, Try to unpack the why. Continue to use the Socratic method. I wear a mask in my work environment. Why? Ask yourself that question and then ask yourself why again. And ultimately get to the root of your inner child and how these masks even formed and came to be. Because it's typically stemmed in something along those lines. Okay? And I want you to think about what roles you step into to feel accepted. I know that I've been there. I feel less inclined to do it more so now, honestly. But we've all worn masks. We probably are all still currently wearing masks, okay? Not a lot of us have that luxury, like I said, because it is a luxury. It's a level of freedom where you don't have to care and you can just be you. Like I said, it's a luxury. But we have to create the space for ourselves during this time to be able to be ourselves, to nurture ourselves, to heal ourselves, to rest, and to just be. All right, lovelies, that is what I have for you today in episode 4 of The Mask We Wear. I hope that you found it beneficial and informative. Again, I'll have some reflective questions in the description box for you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Next week, we are going to be talking about inner child healing. So we are going to dive into that inner child, or as for me, I would like to call her Baby Tari. Okay? And sometimes she just comes alive and she's like, girl, I need to be out here and free. Don't put me in a corner. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Nobody puts Tari in a corner. So we're going to dive into a little bit of unpacking inner child healing, inner child work. It's an important aspect of shadow work, you guys. I hope you have a great week. Peace, love, and light to you all. Make sure that you are protecting yourself and nurturing yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And I look forward to seeing you guys back here next Sunday. Have a good one.